So welcome everyone, and thanks very much for coming along to this month's For the Region Members Sector Forum. And today's topic of discussion is destination and travel and tourism, which, as you know, if you know For the Region, that's one of our impact areas. For the Region is an alliance of businesses and organisations and community groups and people across South West Wales, stretching from Pembrokeshire in the west to Neath Talbot in the east, and we're a champion of all the fantastic stuff that's happening across our region, and our mantra is that the future of South West Wales is in all our hands, and by working together, breaking down silos and speaking positively about all the great stuff that's happening, we can unlock a new era of opportunity for the region and for people across South West Wales to have fantastic careers, fantastic quality of life, and flourishing local communities. So we're really passionate about shining a light on some of the really great news that's happening across South West Wales. And one of those things that's happened is official opening just in the last week or so of the new Swansea Arena by Ambassador Theatre Group. And so that's the topic of today's discussion. We've got colleagues from Ambassador Theatre Group joining the meeting to give us a little bit of a behind the scenes intro into their roles and what they're excited about over the next few months. And we're delighted to have so many of our members and supporters joining the meeting as well. Sophie, can I pass over to you and ask you to kick off with a bit of an intro to yourself and your role at the arena, and then perhaps you can introduce your colleagues as well and tell us how's it going, how has kind of opening week been, how have the soft launch events gone, and yeah, what we can be looking forward to.
So my name is Sophie and I'm the Conference and Events Manager for Swansea Arena. I've worked for ATG, the Ambassador Theatre Group now, just knocking on 9 months. So I've been on the project for a long time and I have seen it, you know, literally get built from the floor up. And it's been a really, really exciting and interesting project to be part of. So like I say, I look after all conference and events, so that can be anything, you know, from dinners, exhibitions, awards evenings, you name it, it will come to me, and then it'll be me that gets back to you. So For the Region will be our first major exhibition that we have at the arena, so it's really exciting. You know, there are going to be a lot of stands, and I think it's going to be really exciting for everyone to, you know, really have a look around the arena, and, you know, get to know what we've been up to in here, and, you know, see all of the, if you couldn't make the test events, that is. So yeah, as some of you may know, we did launch some test events last weekend, and we are really happy with how they went. We had some amazing feedback, and to be honest, I'd say 98% of the feedback that we had and the press coverage that we had were all really, really positive. So, you know, we're really ecstatic with that. We have taken some learnings from the test events. This is why we do them. We know we've got some tweaks to make, but we are working on it. And, you know, we're really excited for our launch season, which kicks off next week. I can't believe it, with John Bishop on the 15th. And then Royal Blood on the Saturday with For the Region in between all of that. So it's a really interesting launch season for us that week in particular, because, you know, we're going to be it's the turnaround times to the arena. It's really testing us in terms of our equipment, how we crowd control. And yes, we'll take all of our learnings from the test events and a very successful week next week.
Sophie, so you've relocated to Swansea, haven't you, for the role? So you're sort of a fresh pair of eyes on our city centre. I think you're living in or close to the city centre now. Give us that perspective then, as someone who's recently moved into the city. What opportunity do you see? What experience do you bring from elsewhere that you think kind of informs what we could look forward to here in Swansea? And yeah, first impressions on sort of moving into the area.
Yeah, so like I say, I've been on the project for about 9 months now, but I officially moved to Swansea in September from the Midlands. So previously I've worked for Hilton Hotels, so I've worked all over the country with them, managing their sales offices. And obviously COVID changed my job very significantly, and I'm sure it did with a lot of people's, and there was a lot of buying and selling of hotels. So while I still had a job, it was not the same job that I'd had prior to COVID. So I decided, you know what, I want to go and do something. I want to work in an arena, and here I am. So yeah, I relocated in September. And to be honest, I've completely fallen in love with Swansea. When I first moved here, I think it was more, I was extremely homesick, and because I'd never set foot in Swansea before, I was feeling very anxious and very alone, and I was like, I've got no friends. But now I've been here and I have made friends. I absolutely love it. You know, I've had my family down, they all feel the same. Well, not stupidly, but I walked to the Mumbles with the dog the other day and back, and thought, you know, I was going to have a heart attack on the way back. My legs were killing me. You know, it just showed me how unfit I really am. Fabulous walk, but massively underestimated. And yeah, I just think there's so much to see here. There's so much to do. It's a really beautiful location. I think being here and getting to know, you know, the locals and the businesses, and you know, there's so much opportunity in this city, and you know, it very untapped as well, I think. And I think a lot of people, while they've been to Cardiff, they haven't really come to Swansea. You know, I hadn't been here before I actually moved here, and I know I can say the same for a lot of people. They sort of tend to go to Cardiff, they'll go towards the Celtic Manor, and that's sort of where it stops. So it's really exciting from my perspective to see, you know, the inquiries that we're getting from a sort of national and international market now. And you know how exciting it is. You know, my observation would be we definitely need more bed stock in Swansea. You know, and I have found at times transport to be quite difficult if you don't drive, even if you do drive, because of the parking situation that I'm sure I don't need to explain to anyone. But you know, I think there's so much potential here, and the investment that they're making, and how much, you know, that the council do for independent businesses, and how much they look after them, and the opportunity they give them. I think, you know, you don't see that very often, and I've lived in a lot of cities, so I think, you know, there's so much potential here, and it's really exciting.
Oh, thanks, Sophie. Yeah, really, really great to hear that perspective. And I think lots of us, we come to Swansea to live, and we never leave. So yeah, I can imagine you'll be here for many, many years to come.
I've got a feeling I'll be one of them people.
Yeah, oh, that's really great. So is Lara, you're one of Sophie's colleagues at Ambassador Theatre Group. Would you like to tell us about your role and introduce yourself?
Hiya, so yeah, I'm Lara. I'm the operations manager at Swansea Arena. So I joined the project at the same time as Sophie. We form part of the head of department team. So my role specifically oversees anything from sort of the front of house department, general day-to-day operations of the building, security and food and beverage. All of that kind of thing is all wrapped up into my role. So I've got a wonderful team that I work with for food and beverage, and we've also started a nice relationship with a security company that's local. So we're really enjoying working with them. And yeah, much like Sophie, I'm not from here, as you can tell. So I've come from originally from London, and then I was living in Hampshire for a while, and have now moved myself into Swansea. So I'm very much bedding in and enjoying seeing the sea every day on my drive to work.
And yeah, that's really great. So what's your background then, Lara, for the students that are in the room? You say you're operations director. What's sort of the background that you've come from? What's your experience?
So I studied theatre design many moons ago. Whilst I was doing that, I became very interested in theatre, obviously, and worked at a local theatre, which is also an ambassador's theatre. So it was local to me in Wimbledon. And I just was generally just a student and coming in and doing a bit of bar work, a bit of ushering. And then I decided that I was really interested in the management side of things. So I moved up and became a front of house manager there. Was there for quite some time. loved it but wanted another challenge. So I then went to work in central London for a university called Central St Martin's, which is sort of quite heavily focused on fashion and that side of things, but also has a theatre. So I was able to kind of combine my knowledge across the university there, working with them on their events, working quite closely with students for them to help deliver their projects to the public and all of their big degree shows and that kind of thing. And then now I have ventured back into this side of the world, but obviously this is arena rather than theatre, so very much enjoying being back with the Ambassador Theatre Group. But yeah, I'm very much a hands-on kind of person, so I have to know all the back detail and have to do a lot of heavy project work and that kind of thing. But also on the day, you'll see me usually running around in a pair of trainers, making sure everything's running smoothly.
Yeah, I think it's really, really important role, that is sort of making sure everything's running smoothly, not without a lot of stress, I can imagine. But hopefully it all hopefully it all comes together. But yeah, fantastic job you've got on your hands now, managing this flagship event for Swansea. So yeah, really lovely to meet you, Lara. Thanks very
Lovely
much
to meet
for
you
that.
too.
We've got Lisa from the Swansea Arena as well. Lisa, please will you, if you, will you say hello and introduce yourself and tell us about your role?
Yes, hello. Sorry, I've been on and off a few times because they're doing some fire alarm testing that they didn't tell us about. So that's that's the behind the scenes of this building at the moment. Is it's still very much not finished. There's still work being done. But yes, so I'm Lisa. I'm the venue director of Swansea Arena. I haven't been able, because I've been on and off, I haven't heard all the lovely things that have been said about Swansea. But from my point of view, I think, again, having moved here just in November, I think what I've found is that it's a very close-knit city. I think everyone knows each other and everyone has been very welcoming. And I think I certainly, moving here on my own, all of a sudden felt that I had a really close network almost immediately, which I think was really lovely. And what I'm excited about is, I think, what all of this regeneration is going to bring to sort of the eating and drinking side of the city, because that's how I spend most of my free time. And I think there's already, I think I heard Sophie mention, there's already a really strong independent scene in Swansea, and I'm hoping that that really grows because of the footfall that's going to be brought to the city centre surrounding us, and then we get to take advantage of it. So that's what I'm excited about. In terms of what my job is, so obviously I'm a little bit of everything. So I work incredibly closely with Lara in the operation side of things, but I also have to kind of dip my toe into all of the departments, including working with Sophie on events and sponsorship, working with our ticketing team, working with our technical team and our maintenance teams, to make sure that everything in the venue is kind of going in the same direction that it needs to. It's also my sort of job to pull together the business plan for the venue and report that back to the Ambassador Theatre Group and make sure that we're aligning with the Ambassador Theatre Group's goals for the venue, our own goals as a team, and obviously in terms of this venue, the goals of the local community and obviously Swansea Council as the venue owner as well. So I am sort of a jack of all trades, expert in none situation is how I would describe my job.
So the arena's got a programme of events already lined up, quite a few months, if not years, into the future. Whose role is it to book those shows, and how does some of that work in terms of who gets booked and what shows and acts we can look forward to?
Yeah, so what's the great thing about the Ambassador Theatre Group is obviously we have 57 venues internationally. So the easiest thing for us to do is have a central programming team who are based in London, but we also have some programmers based in the US as well and some in Germany. And what happens is a promoter, the easiest way is the promoter will go to our ATG programming team and say, I have got a tour. What venues do you think this will work in? And then we'll go, great. Well, actually, you would work really well in Bristol and Swansea and Edinburgh. And this is, and they can book in a tour for us that way. Alternatively, on the ground as a venue, we also do a lot of outreach to promoters that we do want to work with. And because again, as the first sort of UK arena for ATG, there are promoters that we won't have worked with already as a company that maybe just will want to work with us as opposed to some of our other venues. And then we have a more local programming situation as well. So there might be promoters that are based in Swansea that want to work directly with us as a venue. So it's a little bit of everything, really. I think we managed to kind of cover all markets.
And another question, if you're the right person to answer this, I'm not sure, Lisa, but what do you think is going to be the difference between the Swansea Arena offer versus what's already available in Cardiff? And what's the team's perspective on how the Swansea offer will complement or differ from or compete with what's on offer in Cardiff?
I don't think if I'm perfectly honest with you, we haven't really focused on Cardiff. We're not here for Cardiff. We're here to focus on what the people of Swansea and the local regions need from us. And so what we are trying to achieve is the need to stop travelling to other areas to see comedians, to see musicals, and then to complement what's already in Swansea as opposed to what's already in Cardiff. So the great thing about the arena is because of our size, so we're 3,500 capacity for standing and 2,200 for seated. And we've had a little bit of pushback on that as people saying, well, why haven't you went for a big old fancy arena like the one in Cardiff? But the reason that we haven't is because this is the sweet spot. At 3,500, you can attract massive acts like Royal Blood, like Alice Cooper, but you can also still manage to have your Jersey Boys because it's not so vast that it's too big to work in it. So we're expecting to have some really great West End musicals and also some really massive music stars all in the same venue. And you don't get that very many places, really.
Yeah, good answer. Thanks, Lisa. Has anyone in the group got any questions or information they'd like to ask for or share from Ambassador Theatre Group? Really happy to have questions or comments from anybody here. Zoe.
We are obviously lucky enough to have got in there early and be one of the first local companies that are going to make use of this fantastic arena, and we can't wait to do that next week. But how have the local community, have they taken ownership of it? Have you been approached by lots of businesses to run things at the arena?
I think it's really interesting because I think I may have touched on this with you guys before, but when I first got the job back in March, I was really surprised by the amount of negativity there was around the arena in the local Swansea community. A real sense of it's a waste of money, it's never going to get finished. Which was very hard when you come into a new job that you're very excited about. Obviously, I think the business community was very excited. And obviously speaking with you guys and some of your other colleagues. But what's happened actually is in the last month, as people have been able to be inside and, and come to the test events and see the ribbon cutting and cross over the bridge, I can't explain how much the tide has turned, that people are like, oh, okay, we see what you're saying now. You did mean what you were saying. You did keep your promise, obviously in regards to Swansea Council saying that they were going to build this incredible building. So I think what we are now seeing, and I'll let Sophie speak to herself, but there's a much fresher wave of communication with the arena now that we're finished and people know that we're real and we're not just a construction site that's going to be here for the next 4 years.
That's really, really great to hear, isn't it? Sophie, do you want to come in on some of that?
Yeah, sure. The response, I think, when I first joined, there wasn't a massive amount of inquiries in terms of people asking to use the space. There was a few, but not a lot really. And I would say over the past month, as we've got closer to our test events, as we've been testing the skin that wraps around the building, as our social media has ramped up and our marketing, and as launch has come closer and closer, the inquiries have skyrocketed. And it's not just interest from Swansea local businesses anymore. Like I said, it's sort of international, national, all sorts, and it is incredibly exciting. And we've barely scratched the surface with taking the conference and events offering of this building to market. And I think when we do, we're really going to be looking at citywide conferences that will benefit all businesses, not just the arena, because we are looking at working, collaborating with, the Brandwin and, all the venues, the hotels, everything. So I think it's really exciting to see what's going to happen over the next couple of months. And I really do think as a destination, Swansea is definitely going to be on the map for a lot of these, really big major conferences and exhibitions. And I think that's really exciting.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about how all the various venues across the city might be able to collaborate and co-host different sort of conferences and exhibitions. And those of us who've been to international trade shows and conferences in the past, you know, they are sometimes spread over more than one venue in a city, and all the hotel beds get booked out, and it really becomes a sort of citywide event. So it'll be really interesting to see how that moves forward. And as Lisa was saying, you know, once we've had the experience and got into the venue and seen what it's like, it suddenly becomes real, doesn't it? And I'm sure I can't be the only one that's dreaming up lots of different ideas for events that I think need to be hosted in the arena. So that'll be really exciting. Julie?
I think one of the really interesting things to do was to go to the Federation Small Business meeting, which was where we were updated by the leader of the council about the whole project area, and then go to the housewarming event, because you've got a much better concept really of the enormity of the project, and how big a commitment has been made to improving the area, with the arena being, you know, the very first one. But I think when you take it into context with everything else that's planned for around that zone, I mean, we can't help but become a go-to destination city. And I think riding on the wave of the most beneficial publicity of late, you know, with the Gower and all the different things that the area's got to offer, I think it's an incredibly exciting time, and I look forward to seeing the whole project, you know, in its fullness completed, because honestly, I think that you won't be able to put a pin in your calendar for bookings once everything is up and running the way that it should. And I think it's been a long time coming, you know. I mean, a lot of people who've moved to the area won't necessarily understand how degenerated our city became, and really never picked up after the Second World War. And I know that seems like lifetimes and lifetimes ago to some, but you know, this is timely, and it is very exciting. And culturally, I think you will get used to the odd little ways of the local people being incredibly negative, but once they embrace you entirely. So I shouldn't worry too much on that event. But I, for one, am very pleased to see all of the developments that are happening at the moment.
I sometimes think it's a bit like we're a bit like we are with our own siblings, isn't it? Like we're allowed to slag them off, but if anyone else says anything negative about Swansea, then we're the first to jump to its defence. So yeah, really interesting what Lisa was saying about that tide turning, and I think it's really exciting for everyone to actually see the reality of it. You know, we were all looking at fly-throughs of what the future of the city centre will look like, and then we've been locked down for 2 years, and we've emerged from lockdown to find a brand new arena, like landed from space. Zoe, would you like to come in again?
Yeah, I mean, you and I have been lucky enough to have a look around, and those who have been to some of the test events as well. I was wondering if one of the girls wanted to just talk through the space that's available that people could use and what it could be used for, because I know there's meeting rooms and different rooms. So if one of you guys wants to sort of talk us through what's there and what the availability could be for different projects or meetings or events.
Great. So, so we have our main auditorium. So that's got 1,449 square meters of flat floor. So we can do exhibition space as the stage is modular, so we can fold it right back. So for a seated and standard, you know, show, we can do 3,500, and the auditorium fully seated is 2,196. So there's a lot of different, you know, configurations of that auditorium that we can make. We also have a partition wall that goes into our upper auditorium, or if it's in theatre mode, the circle. So we can use the flat floor if we wanted to do an exhibition down there, and then we can do a fully seated conference sort of lecture hall for 750, and it has a custom built conference stage and sort of cinema sized screen in there. So they've definitely thought about how the space can be utilised and maximised the most. So yes, we can have a sort of a lecture running for up to 750, and also have an exhibition on the arena floor, or we can start setting for a dinner. You know, there's a lot of different things that we can do. In terms of the meeting space, we have 10 meeting rooms, and they go from sort of 5 boardroom up to 80 theatre. Some of them partition off. All of them have got floor to ceiling windows with natural daylight. They all have TVs and, you know, all the built-in AV, very smart technology in all of them, because we wanted to make the meeting rooms as self-sufficient as possible. So you haven't got to sort of, you know, ask someone to sort of, you know, if you've got a spare HDMI cable, we've got some sort of wireless connections, and we all know what a nightmare it is when you need a HDMI cable or an Apple connector and you just can't get hold of one. So we've tried to think about all that in terms of how we've laid out the meeting rooms. We do have our VIP lounge as well, so that can seat up to 150 in like a casual seating, which we will have set up all the time, apart from if we go into conference mode. So that's just made up of poster tables and, you know, comfortable sofas and tables. When we go into conference mode, it can go to 145 theatre, and we do have a purpose-built conference stage, screen and projection in there, and also it's got its own sound sort of tech built in, so that a tech can sit in the room but not take up any of the space that they would normally take up. So that can be operated sort of from the back of the room, and we can also do up to 90 for a banquet in there. So we've had some interest, you know, for the smaller awards dues, away days, and we've also had, you know, for weddings and things like that. And it's a really, really beautiful space, the VIP lounge. If you haven't already been in there, obviously you will probably see it when you come to For the Region. And then we have our concourses, which are just too pretty to not offer out for anything. So we're going to be doing some banquets on our level 0 concourse, which is our largest one, because that accommodates our arena floor seating. We're also looking at doing exhibitions in, down there. Like I say, we're doing some banquets. We're using it for tea, coffee, breakout space. It's just a really beautiful space. And again, you will see that when you come into the arena. And then our level 3 concourse, which is only really getting used if we have the whole arena seated. So that's where you would get to your seats if you're using the circle or the upper auditorium. When that's not in use, again, I've been using that for sort of lunches or drinks receptions, because again, it's a very beautiful area of the arena that I don't think we thought about using before we actually saw the finished product. And, you know, they really have put time and effort into the design of the arena. And, you know, if you haven't seen it already, please come in and see it, because it's absolutely gorgeous. But yeah, so that is all the space that we have.
And like you mentioned, the floor to ceiling, like whatever room you're in, like the concourses and the meeting room, you can see out like you can behind you, even though it's covered in lights, you can see the views from the arena. It's beautiful outlook, isn't it, as well?
Yeah, and obviously, you know, Coastal Park, which is opening towards the end of this week. You know, it's absolutely gorgeous out there, and they've put some really, the design of it's beautiful. The Green Room restaurant, obviously, when that opens, you can see that from 2 of our meeting rooms. You know, and it's just a lovely space, you know, just to get out of a meeting room and go for a nice walk. And there is event space in Coastal Park as well. So, you know, marquees can be put up, or food stalls, we can put cars up there. And we're working closely with the council, you know, to get that sort of offering finalised. But yeah, you know, there's beautiful, you can, you know, always see outside, floor to ceiling windows in every room, which is, I do think is quite important, having worked in hotels where there's meeting rooms without windows at all. And it can be, you know, it can be a bit dull if you've got to work in a room all day with no natural daylight.
Yeah, absolutely. I was wondering whether the arena is going to be somewhere that's kind of open all the time, like people can pop in and have a coffee like you can at, for example, the Wales Millennium Centre, or whether it's mainly going to be closed unless there's an event going on. How's it going to operate?
The plan currently is so we're waiting to open our front doors once it's fully accessible. So I don't know, for those of you that know, there's a lift that comes from Oystermouth Road up to our front doors. And once that's been fully commissioned, that's when we're going to open our box office. So that looks like that's going to happen next Monday. If we have a day that is what we call an industry dark, which means we don't have anything on the stage. Our box office will be open 12 till 5 Monday to Saturday, and we do have a small coffee counter that you can come and get a coffee at. There's not going to be any seating inside, because really the point is that people are supposed to be wandering around the coastal park, popping in, getting a coffee, maybe looking at some tickets, chatting to our lovely ticketing staff, and then continuing their stroll. But in all honesty, it looks like from our diary, we're going to be we're going to have stuff in most days. And in that situation, you know, depending on the event, the box office will either be open or closed, because some events will take full ownership of that foyer space, and some will just be in the auditorium, so the box office continue being open as needed. So we'll try really hard to communicate through our social media any changes to our opening times, but that's current plan. And we're really excited because they've opened up the bridge now, and all weekend, you know, people were wandering around at the outside of the arena, peering in the windows, and we were absolutely gutted that we're not just quite ready to have them in to have a look around. But it's really nice to see the interest is there, because it's quite a big journey to make just to walk around a building. But still, there was a lot of people crossing the bridge. And what's really nice, you know, talking about the, you know, the vastness of the development, is that I think the attitude to the bridge has changed. I know this is off topic to the question, but you know, there was so much negativity about the bridge when it first got put up. And as a venue team, we had been able to stand inside it. So we knew what was coming. Like, we knew people were going to be really impressed with it. And that's exactly what happened at the test events. We had so many people coming up to us and going, I hated that bridge, but I get it now. I get it. And we were like, yay! It's such a lovely experience walking across it.
Yeah, I just can't wait for like tickets to a big evening show, and maybe having dinner and then walking across the bridge and the arena all lit up, and then after the event, you know, staying around in town for drinks and whatever. I think it's just going to be like a fabulous experience.
Yeah,
we've got
especially when the green room's up and running. That's going to be great.
yeah, complimentary, really complimentary. So the Green Room is the restaurant, for those that aren't aware. That's the restaurant that's opening in the coastal park, and that is the same people who run the Secret bar and kitchen further along the seafront. So it's a really great complimentary destination to stuff they've already done, and if anyone's been down to the Secret, they do a fantastic job of making that a good daytime and evening venue. So I'm sure they'll do the same in the coastal park. And it's the first new park in the city centre for 70 years or something, I think we're told. So fantastic new green space for the city, and really a great job of linking the city with the seafront, because before the arena was there and the bridge, you know, it was quite a job to cross that road and get over and onto the marina side. So it's really going to change the dynamic and the kind of focus and the visitor experience for the city. And not least, you know, all the investment that's happened along Wine Street, which links the kind of core of the city centre down to that the front and the road and the marina. Huge investment gone into Wine Street to make that so much more walkable and much more attractive. There's loads of new paving, planting and public realm investment gone on there. So as Julie was saying, really, it's all really holistic, isn't it? The whole regeneration of that area, of which this is just phase one of what they're calling the Copper Bay regeneration area. There's a question that's come through from Geraldine from the tourism department in Swansea Council as to whether you guys at the arena would consider hosting a tour for local tourism businesses. I think some of them are here today, but there's a great appetite for tourism businesses across the city who would love to come and be shown around. I don't know whether you'd be open to Geraldine getting in touch to coordinate a visit for local tourism businesses.
Yeah, of course. I think you know, I think everyone in the city is sort of aware of the kind of delay that took place with the construction, which was nobody's fault. It was just, you know, there was a pandemic and a little bit of Brexit, and the plan had been that we would have a 6-month period before our first event in order to really kind of get to grips with our operation, open our box office, get people in for tours, and we actually, that hasn't happened. So we're going sort of straight into, you know, we got handed the keys to the building 3 hours before our first test event, managed to get through those, and now have the builders back on site, because we just want to get going. We don't want to be like, oh, let's just wait another 6 months, let's just wait another 6 months. So what we're sort of saying to people is we know that people are really keen to get inside, and it was always our plan to do that. Unfortunately, we're now in a situation where once we go into our first event next Tuesday, we're pretty solidly booked for around a month, where we've got something in every day. So we're just waiting until we get a real let up on that calendar, so that we can start doing some of the stuff that we were going to do in that 6-month period. You know, because we want to invite, you know, local access groups in. We want people to come and really understand the building before they come to an event, was the plan. So yes, absolutely, but just bear with us, because it's going to take us still a little bit of time to settle in.
It could be that we run our destination travel and transport forum in the VIP room or something at some point, and invite those tourism organisations from across the region in, so that and we can have real events again now, can't we? It would be great to encourage everybody to come, and then that's their opportunity to have a little look around the arena, as well as get have a discussion like this, but on a wider scale, possibly.
Yeah, absolutely.
And of course, Geraldine, make sure all your tourism businesses are aware of the Swansea City Centre conference that's happening. I think a great local organisation is organising it. A week on Thursday, so that is free for everyone to attend, and we've taken over the whole of the arena, so it will be a really great opportunity for everyone to come and have a nose around. I would probably say 50% of the people who've booked their tickets are probably coming just to see the arena rather than the exhibition, but we'll get them in somehow, and I'm sure it's just going to be an amazing day. So everyone's welcome to that. It's a great opportunity. And likewise, Jackie is saying it'd be great to get the students down to have a behind the scenes look. And I guess students will want to hear from different members of the team as well about all the different roles within the arena itself. Julie, what did you want to say?
I wanted to ask a question, actually, if I may, of the arena crew, please. Having gone to the very first housewarming, I've got to say I was incredibly impressed. But I happened to notice that all of the drinks provision within the arena is by plastic cup or glass, whatever you want to call it. And obviously in Wales at the moment, we're really very, very keen on carbon zero and on recycling and on about the environment. So I wondered how, if you'd had any ideas about how you address that, and what plans have you got in place to address the sort of reduction of plastic and waste in an environmentally friendly and carbon neutral way?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an incredibly difficult one operationally, because I'm sure you'll know that all of the licensing restrictions on us, everything has to be served in a plastic container. And there hasn't really been anything massively invented that works any better for the safety and the purpose of what we're providing in an arena setting. That does not mean we are giving up on that. It's something that's very close to our hearts. We're all very aware of the plastic issue in the world, and we see how much plastic just at one event in our arena can create. So what we're currently doing is we work with a company called First Mile, who are sort of zero to landfill. So we work very much in terms of recycling all of that plastic that comes through our doors and making sure it's separated, being collected and taken to the right place. And then we're just constantly researching and trying new things. You might have seen that we had these very beautiful wine carafes that we were giving to people, because obviously you can't have a bottle of wine because it's glass. So we've got these lovely carafes that are reusable that we collect in at the end of the night, and wash and give out again the next day. So I completely get your point, and you're trying, but it's an industry-wide issue that we're just trying to keep on top of ultimately, and try our very best. One of the things that we've tried in the past before is having fully reusable plastics, which always feels like the right way to go. The problem is that nobody ever gives them back. So you give out.
I've had a conversation about that quite recently, actually, and wondered about branded items that people could actually buy when they come in, and then they keep it and it's theirs. you know, for not just for the evening, but also to take away, either branded by the show or branded by the arena. Some, you know, something a little bit more sturdy, maybe one of these fantastic smart plastic cups, you know, that you can get.
Yeah.
And it's theirs to keep in perpetuity, maybe even wash and bring back the next time, you know. So
Yeah, I know in some of the larger festival settings, what they do now is you pay an extra £1 on top of your drink, and then if you bring the cup back, then you get that £1 back. And that's definitely something we can look into. And once we have a better understanding of our operation, if I'm honest with you, my gut feeling is that the people of Swansea who are quite price sensitive wouldn't respond too well to having an extra £1 added on. But that doesn't mean that we won't look into it. We've got our sister venue in Stockton that opened just 6 months before us, who are a much more music-led venue. They're not an arena, but they're a much more music-led venue, and they're kind of leading the way for us within ATG in trialing some of these things. We also need to work with some of our drink suppliers as well, some of our draft beer suppliers on some solutions. So yeah, we don't have the answer yet for you, Julie, in all honesty, but that's a great idea, and it's some of the things that we will keep trialing as we go on and listen to feedback and see how we can get to the bottom of it.
brilliant, thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. And another question really related to kind of the social value that the arena will deliver. How have you been able to engage with local suppliers and local businesses, I guess, providers of different services and products? Or is that more challenging because of Ambassador Theatre Group having a more kind of national supply chain?
We've done a little bit of both, in all honesty. We do have a lot of national suppliers across ATG that we have stuck with, but where we have contracts that we've had to stick to, for example, our food and beverage suppliers are very much centralized. We've tried to kind of sneak off a little bit in other directions. So you might have seen, if you were at test events, that we've got one of our taps is a Gower brewery tap, and we're stocking some of their bottled goods. So we're trying to kind of add on where we need to. We're also working with a local ice cream supplier as well, as opposed to going through our national brand. ATG have been very understanding of what this venue means to Swansea and what it needs to provide, and what Swansea Council, what their vision was for it. And so we're trying our best to find that balance ultimately between that national company and also a local one. So we're doing the best we can. We did go out to tender when we first took ownership of the venue. We did ask local organisations to come forward and let us know if they wanted to work with us, and some of those have been successful. We're working with FSG on our M&E equipment, and I think Lara touched on earlier, we're also working with a local security supplier as well. So a couple of things here and there.
Good. No, it's great to hear that sort of message came through loud and clear from, I guess, the local authority, and that you guys are all aware of how important that is to all of us, and that you'll find those opportunities wherever you can, because those are the things that are just really important, not just for the local economy and for local businesses, but also for that distinctive Swansea offer, isn't it? You know, great to hear you've got local brewery and that sort of thing, because I think when people are visiting the city as tourists or from across the region, having that local flavour and that sense of place that's created by those kind of unique local products, it just makes it more special, doesn't it? And better for the kind of placemaking aspect of what the arena can offer. So that's really great to hear. I hope that's been interesting to those of you who've made it along to this afternoon's conversation. Really, really great to meet you three ladies and hear a bit about your thought processes and your jobs within the new arena. And I think, as you've already found, people and businesses of Swansea are very friendly and welcoming, and really pleased to have you all with us, and looking forward to working with you a lot over the coming months and years. And yeah, thank you so much for all your hard work to get the arena open and ready. And we are really excited, as you know, to be one of the first events in the space. And we know you're all working really hard to make that happen for us, and you've been fantastic to work with. So for the region, we would very much like to thank you all very much, and thank you for coming along today to meet some of our members and students and friends, and sharing a bit about what's going on behind the scenes. So thank you all very much for coming and listening in and for your questions and comments this afternoon. I hope it's been an enjoyable event, and keep in touch with us at For the Region, and look out for more opportunities to explore the arena, to meet other change makers within Swansea's destination offer, and we'll be out and about across the region spreading the message that South West Wales has so much to offer from a tourism and a visitor economy perspective, but also all of those who live and work across South West Wales. This really is the place to be, and it's getting better all the time. Right, thank you very much. That's all from us. Have a nice afternoon.